So yeah, this is 5 whole years of Anki. Hey everyone, it's Alex here. I'm currently in the Seoul airport. It is 7:30 a.m. and my layover is 7 hours long. So I decided why not make a video, right? Yeah, I've spent 5 years on Anki, and it's certainly one way to spend your life. I've spent 1 year in GCSEs, 2 years in A levels, and another 2 years doing Anki for university. So, I'd like to thank the open source community, the Anki community for getting me into Cambridge medicine and continually getting me through university. I think it's been really useful. It's definitely one of the most effective learning resources I've ever had. So I wanted to make this video just to give my top 3 pieces of advice as someone who's been using Anki for a while, just for anyone considering using Anki or anyone using Anki right now. So my first piece of advice is to make your own flashcards and to make good flashcards. So what I mean is that there are already a lot of pre-made flashcards out there for a lot of different syllabi and a lot of different courses, but I think there's value in making your own flashcards, because when you make your own flashcards, you condense the information down in your own words. It's kind of like you're making notes, but already in the form of active recall. And it's also really useful to have a database of questions and answers to your course, right? The problem with making your own flashcards is that oftentimes there's a time constraint and you aren't able to make your own flashcards, in which case pre-made decks are really useful. But I would still say that if you do have the time, I think making your own flashcards is pretty effective. I also think you should make good flashcards. I mean, obviously, I think you shouldn't. And I also think that you shouldn't just make flashcards, you should make good flashcards. What I mean is that you ideally want to make effective flashcards that don't bore you to death. And the way you do that is by following the 20 rules of making flashcards, which I'll link down in the comments below. But essentially, making sure that these flashcards are short, concise, and to the point, right? My second tip for using Anki is that all throughout my years of using Anki, all throughout using it for passing exams, learning languages, etc., Anki hasn't been the only studying resources I use. So what I mean is that when I was studying for GCSEs and A levels, Anki wasn't the only thing I used. Sure, Anki was really useful in getting me to actually memorize the content in the first place, but I actually had to practice the past papers and the exam questions just to make sure I can actually answer the questions on the test. And I really stumbled on this in university, especially in my first year of university, because in my first year of university, I kind of just focused solely on Anki. And I realized pretty late, maybe a month before exams, that I actually found that making a lot of diagrams, mind maps, writing a lot of essays, those were really useful in solidifying my foundations and really pulling everything together. I think those were really useful in solidifying my foundations, and those were really useful in solidifying my foundations and really those were really useful in solidifying my foundations and pulling everything together. So moving forward, I don't think Anki should be the only thing I use to study, and I wouldn't say it should be the only thing that anyone uses to study. So for my last piece of advice, I'd say that you can break the 20 rules that I said in the comments below. Throughout my years of making flashcards, I made some pretty long flashcards, and there's a reason behind this. So let me show you some examples first. So here's one of the flashcards I was using for English GCSE poetry, and I memorized this bank of quotes. So here's another example from A-level biology. These are the 6 steps of synaptic transmission, and I'd press good if I could memorize all of the steps correctly. And I know in the 20 rules they specifically say you shouldn't have these sorts of long lists, you should probably break them down. But I found that by making these into long lists, it forces me to really connect ideas together, and it kind of makes up for the fragmented, disjoint nature of flashcards. I'd say those were my top 3 tips. I'll probably continue using Anki for a while as a medical student and hopefully future doctor. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, dislike if you dislike it, hit that bell notification so you don't miss future uploads, and I am out.